The 26th overall pick just became exponentially more valuable for the Chicago Bears, and the reason has absolutely nothing to do with who we're selecting, and everything to do with a move happening 11 spots earlier that's about to reshape our entire draft strategy. Welcome back to Bears News Fan Report, your ultimate source for comprehensive Chicago Bears coverage, breaking news, expert analysis, and everything you need to stay completely connected with our beloved franchise as we build toward contention. I'm bringing you critical draft intelligence today that connects decisions being made by other NFC teams directly to Chicago's options in the first round, information that involves one of the most versatile defensive prospects in the entire 2026 class, and strategic implications that could fundamentally alter how Ryan Poles approaches this draft. Stay with me because what I'm about to break down affects not just this upcoming draft, but how the Bears construct their defense for the next half-decade. Let me take you inside what's happening in the 2026 NFL draft landscape right now, because understanding the complete picture of how teams ahead of us are thinking is absolutely essential for projecting what will be available when Chicago is on the clock at pick 25. This draft class is fascinating because, unlike recent years where quarterback-needy teams dominated the top 10, we're seeing a more balanced approach where franchises are aggressively addressing premium defensive positions and skill positions rather than reaching for signal callers who aren't worth top 5 capital. The Jets are making moves to jump up for Fernando Mendoza. The Raiders are taking their swing at Dante Moore. But after that initial quarterback run, teams are pivoting hard toward blue-chip defenders and playmakers who can contribute immediately. The really interesting development, and this is where Bears fans need to pay extremely close attention, is how teams picking in the middle of the first round are evaluating linebacker talent in this class. Traditionally, linebackers don't fly off the board early unless they're generational prospects like Roquan Smith or Luke Kuechly-type players who can completely transform defenses. But this year's class has multiple linebackers who are generating legitimate top 15 buzz because of their versatility, their ability to play multiple roles in modern defensive schemes, and their combination of size, speed, and football intelligence that makes them matchup-proof against today's diverse offensive attacks. Ohio State is producing an absolutely ridiculous amount of defensive talent in this draft cycle. When you look at mock drafts and big boards, Buckeyes defenders are scattered throughout the first round, representing multiple position groups and different styles of play. Arvil Reese is projected to go third overall to Tennessee, an inside linebacker with sideline-to-sideline range and true leadership qualities that make him the consensus top defensive player in the class. Caleb Downs, the elite safety who can play anywhere in the secondary, is going 10th to the Rams. And then there's another Ohio State defender whose name is generating serious first-round buzz, a player whose versatility and positional flexibility make him extremely attractive to teams looking for defensive chess pieces they can move around based on opponent and situation. Dallas Cowboys are sitting at pick 14 in this mock draft, and their defensive needs are well documented. The Cowboys have struggled with linebacker consistency for years, constantly searching for that reliable second-level presence who can cover tight ends, blitz effectively, play the run, and make tackles in space against dynamic offensive schemes. They've tried veteran free agents, they've drafted projects hoping they'd develop, they've experimented with converted safeties and undersized speed guys. Nothing has provided the long-term answer they need at that position. So when they're on the clock at 14, with several quality edge rushers still available, with offensive tackle prospects who could upgrade their line, with cornerbacks who could strengthen their secondary, Dallas makes a decision that sends ripples through the rest of the first round. The Cowboys select Sonny Styles, linebacker from Ohio State, with the 14th overall pick. And that selection, Bears fans, has massive implications for what Chicago will face when they're on the clock 11 picks later. Styles is one of the most versatile defensive prospects in this entire class. a linebacker who played multiple positions at Ohio State, who showed the ability to rush the passer, drop into coverage, play in the box against the run, and even line up as a safety in certain packages. He's 6'4", runs in the 4.5 range, has long arms that help him shed blocks and disrupt passing lanes, and possesses that high football IQ that allows him to diagnose plays quickly and adjust on the fly. Dallas is getting exactly the kind of flexible defender that modern NFL defenses require, someone who can adapt to whatever the offense presents rather than being limited to one specific role. But here's why this matters so much for the Bears. Styles coming off the board at 14 means one less versatile defensive player available when Chicago picks. It means teams behind Dallas, who might have been targeting edge rushers or cornerbacks, might now pivot to linebackers who are still on the board, creating a run on certain positions that pushes other prospects down. It means the talent pool Chicago is selecting from at 25 has shifted in composition with different strengths and weaknesses than it would have had if Dallas had gone a different direction. Draft boards are interconnected ecosystems where every selection creates cascading effects on subsequent picks, and understanding those dynamics is crucial for projecting what Ryan Poles will actually see when he's making his decision. Let's talk specifically about what Sonny Styles brings to Dallas and why that versatility matters in today's NFL. Modern offenses are so diverse, so creative in how they attack defenses, that having players who can only do one thing becomes a liability. You can't afford to have a linebacker who's great against the run, but can't cover. You can't survive with a safety who's excellent in coverage, but gets bullied in the run game. Teams will target your weaknesses relentlessly, putting your limited players in positions where they're exposed and forcing you to either help them with other defenders or accept that you're going to give up explosive plays. Styles eliminates those concerns because he genuinely can do everything at a high level. At Ohio State, Styles played all over the defense depending on what the Buckeyes needed in specific games and situations. Against running teams, he'd play closer to the line of scrimmage, using his size and length to set edges and make tackles in the backfield. Against pass-heavy opponents, he'd drop into coverage, matching up with tight ends and running backs while showing the range to defend across the middle of the field. On third down, he'd blitz from various angles, using his athleticism to pressure quarterbacks and create chaos in the pocket. That kind of versatility is exactly what defensive coordinators love because it allows them to disguise coverages, create confusion for opposing quarterbacks, and adjust their defensive plans without substituting personnel and tipping their hand. Dallas getting Styles at 14 also tells us something important about how they're building their defense philosophically. The Cowboys have historically been a team that values athleticism and versatility on defense, preferring players who can make plays all over the field rather than specialists who excel in narrow roles. Styles fits that philosophy perfectly, and his selection suggests Dallas is committing to a defensive scheme that emphasizes multiple looks, position flexibility, and the ability to match up against diverse offensive attacks. That approach has proven successful for teams like San Francisco, Buffalo, and Baltimore, who have consistently fielded elite defenses by prioritizing versatile athletes over traditional position specialists. Now, let's connect this back to the Chicago Bears and what it means for our draft strategy. The Bears are picking at 25, and according to this mock draft, we're selecting Romello Height, an edge rusher from Texas Tech. Height brings length and developmental upside, a player with physical tools who could grow into a quality pass rusher with proper coaching and time. But here's the critical question that Ryan Poles and the entire Bears scouting department have to be asking themselves. With Styles off the board at 14, does that change our evaluation of what's available at 25? Are there other versatile defenders who might provide more immediate value than a developmental edge rusher? And how do we balance the need for players who can contribute right now versus prospects with higher long-term ceilings? The Bears' defensive needs are well defined heading into this draft. We need more pass rush production from the edge, more consistency in coverage from our linebackers, and more playmaking ability throughout the entire defense. Tremaine Edmunds has been solid but not spectacular. TJ Edwards brings toughness and reliability but lacks elite coverage skills. We could absolutely use a versatile linebacker who can do multiple things at a high level, someone in the Styles mold who gives the coaching staff flexibility in how they deploy personnel. But with Styles going to Dallas at 14 and other versatile linebackers potentially coming off the board between there and 25, the positional value proposition changes dramatically for Chicago. This is where draft strategy becomes really interesting, and where Bears fans need to understand the complexity of what Ryan Poles faces when making these decisions. You can't just draft based on need alone, because sometimes the value isn't there at your position of need when you're picking. You can't always take the best player available, because maybe that player plays a position where you're already strong, and taking him creates roster imbalance. The best general managers find that sweet spot where team need intersects with player value, where you're addressing a genuine weakness while also getting a prospect whose talent level justifies the draft capital you're spending. And sometimes that calculation gets disrupted by what happens ahead of you in the draft. Dallas taking Styles at 14 creates a domino effect that impacts multiple teams picking between there and 25. Carolina at 16 might have been planning on a linebacker, but now pivots to edge rush with Cassius Howell. The Jets at 18 might have been eyeing a versatile defender, but instead go receiver with Mekhi Lemon. Each of those decisions pushes certain players down the board while creating runs at other positions. And by the time Chicago is on the clock, the entire landscape of available talent looks different than it would have if Dallas had gone a different direction. That's the chess match aspect of the NFL draft that makes it so compelling and so unpredictable, even with months of preparation. The Bears selecting Romello Height at 25 makes sense within this context because once Styles comes off at 14 and other versatile defenders get selected in the picks that follow, the best available player who fits Chicago's needs might be a developmental edge rusher rather than a more polished linebacker or safety. Height has legitimate physical tools, standing tall with long arms and the kind of athletic profile that suggests he could develop into a quality pass rusher with time and coaching. He's raw, definitely a project who won't contribute immediately at a high level, but the upside is real and worth investing a late first-round pick if you believe in your defensive coaching staff's ability to develop him. But here's the tension that I know many Bears fans are feeling. Do we really want to use a first-round pick on a developmental project when we're trying to win now with Caleb Williams entering his second season? Shouldn't we be looking for players who can contribute immediately, who can help this defense take the next step right away, rather than in 2 or 3 years? Those are completely legitimate concerns, and they reflect the difficult balance that every team in our position faces. We're not full-on rebuilding anymore, but we're also not quite ready to go all in on immediate impact players at the expense of long-term roster construction. Finding that balance is what will determine whether this Bears team becomes a sustained contender or just has a brief window of competitiveness. The broader strategic question for Chicago involves how we view linebacker value in general. The NFL has shifted toward lighter, faster defenses that prioritize coverage and versatility over traditional thumper-style linebackers who excel against the run but struggle in space. Teams are using more nickel and dime packages, meaning they're taking linebackers off the field in favor of additional defensive backs who can cover. In that context, investing high draft capital in linebackers becomes questionable unless you're getting an exceptional athlete who truly can do everything. Styles represents that type of player, which is why Dallas was comfortable taking him at 14. But height represents a different positional value calculation, addressing edge rush which remains one of the true premium positions in football, where elite players command massive contracts and disproportionate impact. Now, I want to hear directly from all of you Bears fans. Do you think Ryan Poles should be targeting versatile defenders like Sonny Styles who can play multiple roles? Or is it smarter to focus on premium positions like edge rush, even if it means taking more developmental prospects? How do you feel about Dallas getting Styles at 14, and does that change how you think about Chicago's options at 25? And honestly, would you rather have a versatile linebacker who can contribute immediately across multiple roles, or an edge rusher with higher upside but longer development timeline? Drop your comments below because I genuinely want to understand how Bears Nation is thinking about this draft strategy. The bottom line is this: Dallas selecting Sonny Styles at pick 14 fundamentally alters the defensive talent pool available when Chicago picks at 25, forcing Ryan Poles to adjust his strategy and potentially pivot toward developmental edge rushers like Romello Height rather than more versatile defenders who might have been available if the draft board had fallen differently. That's not necessarily bad if we believe in Height's long-term potential and our coaching staff's ability to develop him. But it does mean we're taking a different approach to building this defense than we might have otherwise, prioritizing upside over immediate impact and betting on our ability to be patient with young players as they grow into their roles. That's the reality of drafting in the back half of the first round, and it's why understanding how picks ahead of us impact our options is so critical for evaluating what Poles ultimately decides to do. Make sure you subscribe to Bears News Fan Report if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you never miss critical draft coverage as we get closer to April. Share this video with fellow Bears fans because understanding these strategic elements of draft preparation is essential as we evaluate what Ryan Poles does. I'll be back with more comprehensive analysis as mock drafts continue evolving. Until then, bear down, and let's trust that Poles has a clear vision for building this defense the right way.